It has started. UK property market heading towards a crash. We've got articles like this: UK property market at risk of a major downturn as recession fears loom. We've got more articles pretty much everywhere you turn talking about a property crash. This other article says the risk of house prices crash is real and growing. But is it such a bad thing? We've got articles upon articles saying about the property market going to crash. Or is it? You know, look, Ranjan is, if you've not followed him already, I'll put a link to his channel in the bottom. He come out with this video and this comment.
Wherever you go, everyone says there's going to be a UK housing market crash in 2023. People think property prices are going to plummet. I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think they're going to plummet at all in 2023.
And basically, if you look back over Ranjan's videos, he was the first person in COVID when we all thought, myself included, all thought the property market was going to crash. He was the first one to say the property market isn't going to crash and backed it with some statistics. Is he right this time? Is he going to get it right twice on a row? Time will only tell, but make sure you hang around to the end of the video. I'm going to share with you my view whether I think the market is going to crash or whether what's going to happen with the market. But I'm also going to share with you 4 things you need to be doing in your property business if you want to be growing long-term wealth at the moment. 4 things you need to do as a property investor in a recession or not in a recession, whether we go into recession or not. These are the 4 things you need to do. But be warned, if you miss one of them off, you're not going to get the results, or you might not get the results that you are desiring. But building long-term wealth is a long-term game, so make sure you stay around to the end, because this is not that long really. But the first thing you do before we get to the end is make sure you hit that like button. So why is all this talk about property market going to crash coming out? So if you've not seen it already, we've got taxes going up. So we've had the autumn statement. Jeremy Hunt, our new honourable friend, has come out with this, and he's put some impact on it. So this article says investors will feel the impact from cuts to tax-free dividends allowance, as well as a significant capital gains cut as well. So capital gains is going down from 12.3k allowance, so you can have that tax free, down to 6k and then down to 3k. Your dividends is going down as well from 2k down to 1k, then down to £500. I'm not going to talk too much on this now because I've done a video on this here. But briefly, we're going to have to cover why is this happening? Why is this coming in place? One of the major reasons the UK is going towards a recession, or in a recession, as they've already announced, Bank of England and the Chancellor has announced that, is because inflation. If you can see, look, current inflation rate is 11.1% when the target is 2%. So as a result of the inflation rate, and this is why everybody's talking about housing market crash, as a result of trying to get hold of inflation, they put up the interest rates. Putting up the interest rates directly affects the property market, because mortgages, as you can see on this article, mortgages and refinance rates today in November 2022 are falling, funny enough, even though the rates have gone up. But one of the impacts on the market is the interest rate of borrowing has gone up. So we've gone up from around 2% to around 6%, and it's fallen back down again. But we'll talk more on that at the end and the effects on that. So the interesting thing is there's loads of predictions out there, and from this article, and Propcast is saying that the most significant drop, there's been a drop in demand. We've already had a drop in price, a slight one, but is this the start of it? And they're saying these are the areas that have had the biggest dip in demand, not in price, by the way, in demand. So if you look at this list here, Rutland, Hertfordshire, Leicestershire, if you look all the way through this list, not going to name them all, they've all had a massive reduce in demand. If the demand starts softening, the borrowing goes up, so the cost of borrowing goes up, it's harder to get borrowing. That does result in a pressure on the house prices. The reason we've had high house prices is there's been a supply and demand issue, not just on the amount of properties available, which has been the lowest it's ever been. It's since Rightmove's records begun. Also, there's been a supply and demand issue, as in there's been a load of supply of cheap money at really low borrowing. You could get interest rates under 1%. The average interest rate was around 2%, which is a record low for the amount of time we've had that. We've had that for about a decade. So this has pushed house prices up over the last 2 years and put it on steroids, basically, and made the housing market grow. But now we're taking away them 2 factors. We're getting higher interest rates, and the demand is reducing and the supply is increasing. So my view around this as well is The reason these areas are impacted the most is because the price per earnings ratio. I've been talking about this for ages, and this is why London hasn't grown as much. Has been the lowest growth area in the UK for the last couple of years, even though the UK has been on steroids with capital appreciation and growth. The London, our significant city, that's usually the main leader, has been the lowest growth. And everybody usually says London does it first and then it follows around the rest of the country. They've not been saying that so much in the last 2 years because London's not been growing. It's been growing slightly, like 2 and 3%, which is significant if you own a property in London already, but not so significant if you're trying to buy a property in London, seeing as the price is around 500-600k to buy an average property. So the return on your capital to 2-3% on the capital you'd need to buy one is very low. If you already own one and own it for a long time, it's fantastic. But it's been the lowest growing area in the UK. Look, I love London. I was born in London. I live 10 minutes away from London still now. I love London. I've not got nothing against London, but the fundamentals behind it, price per earnings ratio is the main drag on the ability for London to keep on growing. And the price per earnings ratio is the average income in comparison to the average house price. So when you bear in mind, banks only lend a 4 times to 4.5 times, maybe 5 times, 4 to 5 times multiply of your income, and you look, the average income in London's around 40k. Well, depending where you look, this differs, by the way, so make sure you look in multiple places. But the average income in London is around 40k. The average house price is around 500,000 to 600k. So that is a massive multiplier of your income. And let's have a look at these top ones that are predicted on this prop tech list. Let's just look at the first two. So the first property we'll look on here, the average house price in the area is 364k, above the average house price of the UK, which is just under 300k at the moment. When you look at the average income in the area, that is then £37,000 per year. So that represents a 9.2 times multiplier of income. So when they only lend 4 to 5 times of your income, you can see why pressure would be getting pushed on this. London's even wider, by the way. Now let's look at Hertfordshire, the second on this list. The average house price in Hertfordshire is 306,000, just above the UK average. But the average salary in Hertfordshire is 31,000. So that represents a 9.8 times multiplier of the income. As I said, have a little search around because some places show different average incomes. This is from Plum Point. Some places show different average income and different average prices, but this gives you a gauge of where I'm going with this, even though there's different results no matter where you Google it. But all of them are around a similar sort of mark. So this for me is why London's struggling. London is like 10 to 15 times, depending what part of London you invest in, multiplier of your incomes. And if you can only get that sort of lending, like most people's homes being bought in London, the South East, the people that bought their home 10, 15 years ago and they've gained it off equity. If you look at the average salary in the UK, like the salaries in the UK, only about 5% of people are above 75k a year. So that tells you the multiplier of income that you're going to need to buy these houses in the South. That's why it's compressing. And most sales are done off of own ownership, of people that owned when the price per earning ratio was aligned. But this is why I feel these areas are more vulnerable. I don't know for certain, but I feel these areas are more vulnerable in the South and in the North East and the North, where the price per earnings ratio areas are closer, I feel are not going to be impacted, potentially impacted as much. And this is just my view. I don't know for certain. Don't go out and make your bets on this. I'm not a financial advisor, but it's just my views. But when you look at Stockton-on-Tees, my area, so the average property in Stockton-on-Tees is £143,000, according to Plum Point. Then you look at the average salary in Stockton-on-Tees and around these areas, all around Stockton-on-Tees, so Redcar, 30k, Hartlepool 32k, Middlesbrough 32k, Stockton-on-Tees 35k. Again, somebody jumped on and went, I live in Stockton-on-Tees, I'm telling you now it's not 35k. You look in different places, it's slightly different. I think I've seen it as low as 29k up to 35k, but you get the point of where I'm going with this. If the average property is 143k and the average salary is around 30, even if it's 35k, that's around a 4 times multiplier of your salary in line with what you can borrow. And there's loads of employment coming back to these areas as well. I'm not going to go too much in depth on that, but I feel there's a massive wealth transfer in the UK going on at the moment because of this price per earnings ratio and the fact that people can work from anywhere in the UK. I'm not going to go in depth on that because I've done a video on that here. But as I said, the reason I feel this pressure is going to massively have a kick in. Look at these mortgage estimates. At the moment, most people on fixed terms on 2% mortgages. As people start coming to the end of their fixed term, they're going to be looking more towards 5, 6%. And if you look at this chart here, look, if you've got 100k worth of borrowing, which is going to be pretty typical in Stockton-on-Tees where I am, 2% repayment mortgage is about £428. If you hit to 6%, that goes up £222. Nobody wants to pay £220 extra, but if you're on a 35k salary, that's not it's not going to hit you quite as hard if, for example, you've got 400k worth of borrowing like you probably would have in London. That's going to go up to £882. So as it stands at the moment, 2% is £1,696, and that's going to go up to £2,578, up £882. That's a significant jump. And when you look at the price different salaries, there's not much of a wider gap in them salaries, especially London as well. London's probably around a 40k salary on average. You can see where this is really, really going to pinch these areas, and the areas examples I showed you just now. I'm not going to go too much into mortgages. I've done also a video on mortgages here that you can watch. But let's get to the point. What are my thoughts on it? Where do I think the market's going to go? Look, there's an article here. It says UK housing market heading for a correction, not a crash. So reports say JLL experts home values to decline 6% next year, far cry from 20% or 30% others have forecasted. I'm with that sentiment as well. I'm with Ranjan on this. Look, a difference between a correction and a crash. I feel the property market's going to correct in micro areas. There's a macro and microeconomics that goes on. I think the areas that got wider price per earnings ratio are going to feel the pinch the hardest, and the areas that haven't won't. But even within Stockton on Tees, there's certain areas that have got a wider price per earnings ratio, and there's microeconomics. There's lower end areas and higher end areas in every city. But as a whole, I think the areas where your price per earnings ratio within average is in line are going to feel the pinch less. Just my view. And I don't think we're going to get a major crash. I think we're going to get correction. And these are the reasons. I'm echoing what Ranjan said on his. As I said, his videos are in the bottom if you want to watch that. But at the moment, you've got to think about it. The stress testing has been stress tested. Banks are in a better position in 08. They've got a lot more reserves. They've tested a lot of people around 6% to see if they can handle that all along, because the government made them do that after the 08 crash. A lot of people got a lot more equity in their homes. A lot more. Everybody had to put down deposits and not 100 and 110% lending. There's a load of factors that feed into it. Most people, in the last crash, most people was on a variable rate. So as soon as the market went up, their variable rate followed it. So the variable rate means whatever the interest rate goes, it affects your mortgage instantly. 90% I think it is around mortgages now on fixed rates, and only a fraction of them are due to end next year. Majority of the mortgages are still on a fixed rate for 5-10 years. I've got a 10-year fixed rate on a residential home that my mum lives in, and that's on a 10-year fix at just over 2.49% I think it is. So it's not going to affect me. A lot of people took advantage of these 10-year fixes at low borrowing. So only a small percentage of the homes are coming out next year. Of course it's going to have a bit of an impact. We talk about the landlords as well exiting the market. Over the last couple of years, around 50% of properties have exited the market. But the majority of them, and I agree with Ranjan when he says this, the majority of those landlords are, like, you look at the stock of landlords in the UK, most of them own between 1 and 2 properties. Most of those are accidental landlords that just bought another home, they had a lot of equity, bought another home, couldn't sell their home in the last crash, or just become a side hustle landlord. It's changed. You need to be a business owner in properties. Loads of profit and loads of wealth building in property now, but you need to understand it as a business owner. All the investors, I don't know any investor that is a property investor, educated and done this purposefully as a business that wants to exit the market. They're all excited about the market at the moment because it is going to create a buying opportunity. The accidental landlords and the amateur ones, sorry to say it, but the amateur ones are going to exit the market. That's going to create a bit of a buying opportunity. There is going to be some homes that are going to have to sell up because they're going to be forced out of their homes because of these prices going up. Again, going to create a bit of a buying opportunity. I'm not an opportunistic person, as in like preying on people. Somebody said to me on social media, you preying on these people? And I said, I'm not. Look, these circumstances have happened by the government. It's nothing to do with me. If I was preying on them, I would have put them in financial difficulties, then bought their house off them after I put them in the financial difficulties. These financial difficulties wasn't made by me. So I could put my head on the pillow at night buying properties from these people and trying to help them out of the situation. Who else is going to take these properties? The government that caused this situation? It's up to you. I wonder what you think that should be. But anyway, I don't think the market's going to crash. I think we might have a slight correction. A crash means it's got to be 10% over. I think it is a couple of quarters. I can't remember exact time. I think it might be over at least a quarter or 2 quarters. I don't think we're going to get 10% on an average. I think some areas might, in micro spots, hit that. But as a general, I feel pretty confident still. But these are the things you need to be doing to survive this. Number one, you've got to get strong cash flows and cash flow positive properties, really strong yielding properties. Again, this is why I think the South is more vulnerable. If them interest rates go up like they do in the South and in London, it pushes you into negative payments. And if you're an accidental landlord, that's going to really squeeze you because you've not got the volume in there. And you need that all-weather portfolio to support that. So you make sure you've got assets. If some are losing, others are making it. So make sure you've got good diversification. Number two, you need to be adding value or buying value in. You need to price in what the market might do. I think you might have 5% in my area, so I'm pricing that in. I want to buy properties at least 15 to 20% either below market value or add that value to the property. If you want to learn how to add that value to the property, if you put AV refurb, one of the significant ways of adding value to a property is by doing work to it. So if you put AV refurb in the comments, I'm doing a free workshop to show you how you can add value to properties. Number three is creating an active income. Make sure you've got other incomes coming in so you're not just reliant on this one income. So it fluctuates, you're not reliant on that. I think if you're in the property game, you want to be in the property business, find them active incomes within the ecosystem of property. The best way to do that, I feel, is deal sourcing or being a side hustle deal sourcer if you've not got the time to be a full-time deal sourcer. Again, I've done a video on that here if you want to explore that a little bit more. You can earn yourself 10K a month from this. Not easily, with effort, but it's achievable. And number four is managing the downside risk. Make sure you've got a diversification, as I said. Make sure you do projects that you can manage downside risk. If things go wrong, you've got a bridging loan, you can't exit it. Can you afford that? Do refurbs at a level that you understand how to do them. It is exciting. There's going to be opportunity all the way through every strategy, but you go too big too quick without experience or the right support and guidance, you are going to come unstuck, unfortunately. That's how a lot of people will come unstuck with this, chasing that big dream. Banks are not going to want to lend to them because at that moment, banks are going to lend cautiously. They're not going to exit you. You're not going to be able to exit it. Then you lose your credibility, you're going to lose your confidence, and you're going to lose your shirt. So make sure you do the right level properties for the right level experience at what you've got at the time, but keep on pushing on that and expanding your comfort zone for wherever you're at. Don't just chase these big development stuff just because it's the big money, because it's also the big risk. If you've got the foundation to take on that big risk, you've got the support of money and access to money, by all means do that, but just do the right level, play your own game, not other people's. But listen, my mission is to help as many people live on their terms as possible, and my why is also to live on my terms. Look, if you found this useful, please hit that like button, hit this bell icon. If you've not done it already, hit the subscribe button, and if you've not done it already, hit the bell icon. You'll get notified when we do these videos. Please share this out if you think somebody will find this valuable. As I said, I'm doing a free workshop this Sunday where I'm going to show you how to add value, how to buy these properties that will survive you, not only survive, make you thrive through a recession. This is a big opportunistic time. Most millionaires get made in recessions. The wealth transfers in these times. I believe the property wealth is transferring to the north, as I said in that video. You can check that out in the description. But listen, if you don't evolve your ideas, you're never going to live on your own terms. So evolve your ideas, live on your own terms, and have an amazing day.